Formula Sim Racing heads to the home of British motor racing, Silverstone Circuit, for round 6 of the World Championship. It's a circuit loved by drivers and spectators alike, with famous corners such as Copse, Stowe, and of course the Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel complex. It all makes for a truly thrilling ride. Before the race, headlines were made by Michi Hoyer's shock departure from ACR after 4.5 years with the team. Martin Gosby, therefore, had been promoted to the main team, and he instantly made his mark by taking pole position in his home race. Jurnej Simončič, on the soft compound tyre, qualified in second, with Wojciech Lukaszek putting on a great performance to qualify in third. Davim Rojek took fourth, who has now been promoted to a full-time WCC to ACR Blue. Kalash qualified in fifth, ahead of Jos Araneda, who impressed to qualify in sixth. The Ormilla cars of Fournier and Costa locked out row 4, whilst Brakshock and Burlak rounded out the top 10. Michael Ayres has joined Invictus for the rest of the season, and he kicked off his campaign by qualifying in 11th, ahead of Van den Niet and Panzer. Birokov and Patel were disappointed with their qualifyings, whilst Dylan Scrivens stands in for an absent D'Alessandro. Amazingly, the entire field was separated by only 0.8 of a second. The scene was set for a fascinating race. Who would win in the battle of the ACRs? Lights out, and the front two got away cleanly, but it was all kicking off behind. Contact with Burlak sent Costa into a 360 and scattered the surrounding pack. Gosby led Simončič, Lukaszek and Rojek, whilst Kalash was under threat from Araneda. Scrivens had made a brilliant start and was up to 14th from last, setting his sights on Brakshock's 13th. A mistake from Lukaszek at Copse was all the invitation Rojek needed to seize third place. And so at the end of lap 1, it was Gosby leading Simončič, Rojek, Lukaszek, Kalash, Araneda, Fournier, Burlak, Van den Niet and Ayres. Whilst the front runners remained status quo, Birokov on the soft compound tyre had made a good start to get up to 11th. He was behind his teammate Michael Ayres, who was on mediums. Unsurprisingly, his teammate offered little resistance when he had a run down the Wellington Straight. Lap 9 saw Lukaszek, Fournier and Van den Niet pull the trigger and pit for their first stops, all going to the medium compound tyre. Knowing fast in-laps were crucial, Burlak needed to pass Araneda for clean air. He did so by pulling off a brilliant pass at Brooklands. However, it still wasn't enough to prevent an undercut from Van den Niet. Burlak wasn't willing to waste any time and quickly disposed of the net wrecks at Brooklands again. Araneda had also lost out to Van den Niet, but he put paid to that with an outside pass at Stowe. Van den Niet's teammate Kalash was making progress ahead. He pitted later than Lukaszek and made use of the fresh tyres to make a forceful pass. Quick laps in clean air on the soft compound tyre allowed Birokov to overcut both Van den Niet and Araneda, before he then made light work of Burlak. But something went awry. A computer issue meant he suddenly lost vision of his track. Trying best as he could not to cause a collision, it was incredibly tricky, and Araneda had nowhere to go, costing him his front wing and forcing him to do an entire lap back to the pits. The computer issue thankfully resolved itself, and Birokov regained vision of the track, but his suspension was terminally damaged. One technical issue and 2 potentially strong points finishes thrown out the window. Back at the front, Gosby and Rojek pitted at the expected time, whilst Simončič continued to pound round the laps. He pitted for mediums on lap 21, which raised an all too familiar question: was Simončič one-stopping again? Unsurprisingly, he was undercut, and he fell to a net 7th behind Burlak. Panzer, on the other hand, appeared to be doing the opposite to Simončič, starting on the mediums. Unsurprisingly, he allowed Gosby and Rojek through, but wasn't so inviting to the cars behind, and held them up. However, Kalash did eventually make the pass through at Copse. Despite being on older tyres, Panzer was proving tricky to pass, and a train was starting to form. Burlak got a run on Fournier, however it didn't work out as he had hoped, costing him positions to both Simončič and Patel. In the latter's case, it was not for long, sadly, as an electrical fault forced him out of his home race. It was a miserable 2019 campaign for the 2017 champion. Lap 32, and it was crunch time as both Gosby and Rojek pitted. They rejoined about 4 seconds behind the championship leader, but with cars to clear in order to get a run. Gosby wasted no time passing Kish, and was free to go after Simončič. Rojek had an extra car to pass in the form of the out-of-sequence flag-to-flag of Enric Andre, who was passed with ease. Kish was his next victim just a lap later. Unfortunately, it was game over for Kish's teammate Burlak, as he retired on lap 36 due to damage sustained in the lap 1 contact with Costa. Gosby and Rojek both caught Simončič quickly, but with Simončič leading the race, and a clear 1-2-3 in sight, many were speculating if they'd even be allowed to battle. The answer was quickly delivered, as Gosby made a pass for the lead on the hangar straight. Rojek followed suit half a lap later. Towards the back end of the points, Lukaszek lost out badly in the second stop, as he was jumped by a recovering Costa, Van der Niet and Fournier, before losing yet another position to Panzar. Scrivens, who had done well to get to the points, then found a way past the Go-Speed driver himself. But not for long, as he accelerated too quickly out of the loop and dropped to 14th. As the final lap began, Damian Rojek was not finished and had his sights set on the lead himself. Down towards Copse, and Rojek had a run, but Gosby defended. It was a nail-biting finish, but Rojek had to back off the throttle, which gave Simončič a run at Beckett's. It was close, but with a thrilling climax, Gosby held on to take his 4th career win and his 2nd at Silverstone, ahead of Rojek and Simončič. Despite a post-race penalty, Sander Kalash remained classified in 4th, reaffirming his return to form. Ricardo Costa managed to use a bold strategy to recover from his first lap spin to finish in an excellent 5th, ahead of Danny Van der Niet, who completed a strong showing for Netrex. Jeffrey Fournier finished in 7th, ahead of Robin Panzar, whose strategy didn't quite work out, with Lukaszek and Kish rounding out the points. Andre and Ayres came fairly close, whilst it was another race without points for Jean Alesi Esports. Despite his winning streak coming to an end, Jone Simončič is still in full command of this championship, whilst Martin Gosby's win has shot him up from 5th to 2nd in the table. D'Alessandro's absence has resulted in him dropping down to 5th, whilst both Fournier and Kalash move ahead of Patel. ACR have been utterly dominant in the teams, occupying the first 2 spots in the standings. Poor showings from both Edge and JAE have caused them to fall back, whilst Go-Speed have moved ahead of Invictus in 7th. Thank you very much for watching this highlights package, and join us on June 7th for live coverage of round 7 of the 2019 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Championship, taking place at the Hockenheimring.